Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. And starting this heavyweight news mashup, which will feature 4 different topics with Wilder and Ortiz 2, the rematch which we've been waiting upon. Deontay Wilder announced all the way back on May 28th that he would be rematching Luis Ortiz and that details would be announced shortly. So we're over 3 months on from that, and it looks like the announcement is finally about to come. So an article by BoxingScene.com, Wilder Ortiz 2 announcement imminent, 11/23 in Las Vegas. So November the 23rd is looking like the date. And that's not necessarily new in itself. That came out a week or two ago. But the fact that an announcement is imminent, that is obviously what we've been waiting on, and that is new. So it remains to be seen when the announcement will be made, but apparently one is coming very shortly. And you have to wonder, what has been the hold-up here? 3 months ago, Wilder announces that the fight was on, details coming shortly, and there has been this big delay. There's actually less than 3 months now to the fight, so make of that what you will. But according to BoxingScene.com, the announcement coming shortly, which is good. It'd be good to have another good heavyweight fight to look forward to, although I do think Deontay Wilder wins this one against a 40-year-old Luis Ortiz, and probably wins it faster than the first fight. Okay, moving on to the next thing. The co-promoter for Tyson Fury, Bob Arum. He says that Deontay Wilder will not get his wish. Tyson Fury will not step aside. He wants the rematch with Deontay Wilder early in 2020. Now, Wilder had spoken to 78 Sports TV about a week or so ago, saying that he would want Tyson Fury to step aside, and he said he thought that Fury would, if there was the chance for Wilder to unify with the winner of Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr., the rematch, which is taking place on December 7th. So he said he thought, in his opinion, he didn't feel Fury wants to fight him again anyway, and with this opportunity comes about, I think Fury will pass up his opportunity. But Bob Arum, he's got other notions here, saying of a potential rematch with Wilder, which is slated potentially for February the 22nd, 2020. That is the plan. Yeah, I read that. Obviously, there's a contract. I don't know. Wilder says a lot of things that he doesn't really mean, just for effect. But that fight is already in the books. And Arum, he also cleared something else up. Fury had recently stated that if a fight with Wilder did drag later into 2020, that it wasn't February the 22nd, 2020, that if it ended up being April or May or whatever, that he could potentially fight in December in the United Kingdom because he wanted to stay active. But Arum has sort of shut that down, saying, no, he ain't fighting anymore. He fights in September. If he gets through okay, he's going to wait for February to fight Wilder. Okay, we'll move on to the next thing, which also involves Bob Arum, who also co-promotes Kubrat Pulev. Pulev is the IBF mandatory challenger. He's been waiting for his title shot. He believes it should be next. He even petitioned the IBF to make Andy Ruiz Jr. fight him, but the sanctioning body said no. But what they did do in its resolution is said, Pulev must have his title shot by the end of May 2020. So that is going to put the winner of the Ruiz-Joshua fight in a bit of a predicament, because obviously the WBO mandatory is due, and potentially they could be put into a situation where they may be forced to drop a belt. It's sort of, a bit of water to flow under the bridge, but that is the sort of equation at the moment. Mandatories are piling up. But Arum says of Andy Ruiz Jr., they gave him special permission to do the rematch with Joshua. They said he must fight Pulev next, no later than May. And just on Arum, of his thoughts on Anthony Joshua, should he lose again to Andy Ruiz Jr., he says, if Anthony Joshua loses again to Andy Ruiz, which I expect he will, who really wants to bother with him anymore? It's a very sort of damning indictment from Bob Arum. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens December 7th. Okay, moving on. The unbeaten fringe contender Germaine Franklin will be fighting on October the 5th on an undercard that is headlined by Clarissa Shields. So this will be a card that will be held in Flint, Michigan. Franklin will be facing Pavel Sauer. So he's currently 11-1. So I've got the press release here in front of me, as you can sort of see. It came out a day or so ago. Hadn't had a chance to get to it until now. I was thinking about this fight because this is not really the sort of caliber of opposition that Jermaine Franklin should be facing at this point in his career if he really is trying to position himself for a title shot. Remember, this guy is currently at 19-0. He's not currently ranked in any of the sanctioning bodies. And this opponent, Pavel Sauer, he's 11-1. And that one loss is to Filip Hrgović, the prospect Filip Hrgović who faced Sauer in his second fight. So this was a guy who was fed to a wolf in Hrgović for a second pro fight. And Germaine Franklin, who's going to be having his 20th fight, is jumping in the ring with him. So I'm not crazy about this matchup because Pavel Sauer is really a journeyman in disguise. The record is very padded, so it's 11-1 here on screen, 36 years old. He's 6'5". Really not too much of note on the record. It's a bit thin. So I can't really say I think too much of this matchup, and I do think that at this point in his career, Germaine Franklin needs to be matched a little bit tougher if he is going to prove that he deserves to be at that next level where Franklin himself is calling himself the next biggest thing in American heavyweight boxing, that he is the sort of American star on the rise and he is going to be a heavyweight champion. But I don't think we're seeing the matchmaking being tough enough for him, and I don't think he's done enough recently to prove he is really on the rise as he claims he is. He's had a couple of fights where, you know, the results have gone his way, but they weren't necessarily terrific performances. They weren't exactly, some of the scoring in them was a bit, you know, from my point of view, I thought his fight with Jerry Forrest, it was debatable if Franklin even won that fight, but it ended up being quite a wide decision to Franklin. And after that, he was actually on social media chewing people out for suggesting that he hadn't won that fight. But, you know, watching that, there were a number of people who thought, you know, that was a very close and competitive fight and that Forrest may have done enough to get the nod there. And obviously before that, he fought an aging fringe contender in Rydell Booker, who was 38 years old at the time, and really he was pushed very hard by Booker, and not exactly the sort of performance that you wanted to see to really, you know, make you think, oh, this guy's the next big thing. He's obviously got some talent, he's a decent heavyweight, but he hasn't sort of proven that he can work his way past the current level that he's been at. And I do sort of think that this fight with Pavel Sauer is, it's a dressed up sort of opponent. You know, if he can't go in there and look really good against this guy and blow him out in a couple of rounds, then there really is trouble, because he's extremely padded record, and this is the sort of fight that he needs to get a quick knockout and on to the next one. But just talking down here, Franklin says, "This is what I've been waiting for. I can't wait to put on a show in front of my hometown with friends and family in the crowd. I've been working on my diet and taking better care of my body since my last fight. I'm focused on not wasting any punches and letting the knockout come naturally, not pushing for it. I'm going to be better conditioned and more patient and finally prove to fans why I'm America's next great heavyweight." And actually, most of what he's saying there is what he said ahead of his last two fights. Sauer, he says, "I have the technique, speed and power to beat Jermaine Franklin. I'm in great shape, I'm training hard, and I'm very confident heading into this fight. Franklin is underestimating me because of my age, but I'm going to show him he's wrong and have my hand raised when the final bell rings." Just a note, Filip Hrgović blew this guy out in a round, so if Franklin really does labour to a win here, it won't be a good look for him. He says he wants to prove he's America's next great heavyweight. He's had some opportunities, some televised opportunities, and his stock really hasn't gone sort of anywhere. He's still unranked, and he's still fighting guys that I think most hardcore heavyweight boxing fans would consider a sort of a bit subpar for the sort of opposition he should be at this point in his career. But we'll have to see. I mean, I'm not writing him off completely, but I need to see more, and he needs to show fans why he believes he's the next great heavyweight. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.